There is a moment coming, a moment so real, so unavoidable, that no excuse will protect you from it. A moment where every distraction will disappear, every voice will fall silent, and every illusion you once believed will be stripped away. You will not be surrounded by friends. You will not be backed by status. You will not be saved by your reputation. You will stand alone, not in front of people, but in front of Allah. Think about that carefully. The one who created you, the one who saw every hidden action, every private thought, every intention you tried to hide even from yourself, that is the one you will face. And on that day, there will be no delay, no second chance, no rewriting your story. What you built in this life will stand in front of you as your witness. So the question is not if you will have this meeting. The question is, are you preparing for it, or are you avoiding it? Because regret on that day will not be a feeling you can ignore. It will be a reality you cannot escape. 1. You will stand alone, not as you think you are. You spend your life building an image. You care about how people see you. You protect your reputation. You choose your words carefully so you don't lose acceptance. You adjust your behavior depending on who is watching. Around some people, you act disciplined. Around others, you relax your standards. You know how to present yourself in a way that earns respect, approval, even praise. But you need to understand something that most people avoid thinking about. That image you built, that version of yourself people know, will not stand in front of Allah. On that day, there will be no audience to impress, no one to validate you, no one to misunderstand you or praise you. There will be no social pressure, no expectations, no image to maintain. Everything external will be stripped away, and what will remain is the reality of who you truly were. You will not stand as the person people thought you were. You will stand as the person you actually were when no one was watching. Right now, you can hide. You can delete messages. You can cover your actions. You can justify your behavior. You can present a clean version of yourself to the world. But that ability will be gone. Every action you did in private, it will come forward. Every intention behind your actions, it will be exposed. Every hidden habit, every secret struggle, every moment you thought didn't matter, it will all be made clear. And this is where most people are not prepared, because they live two lives. One life is public. It is controlled, disciplined, and careful. It is the version they show to others, the version that earns them respect, the version that they themselves start to believe is real. But the second life is private, and that is where the truth is. The private life is where your real priorities are revealed. It is where your real discipline is tested. It is where your real sincerity is exposed. It is where you choose what to do when there is no reward from people, no fear of judgment, no pressure to maintain an image. And if those two lives are not aligned, then there is a problem, because Allah does not judge you based on your public performance. He judges you based on your reality. Understand this clearly. A person can look righteous in front of people and be empty in private. And another person can struggle in front of people but be deeply sincere in private. And on that day, it is the private reality that will carry weight. This is why your intentions matter so much. You can do the same action as someone else, but with a completely different outcome in front of Allah. You can pray, give charity, speak kindly, but if your intention is to be seen, to be praised, to protect your image, then that action loses its value. And on the other hand, you can do something small, something no one notices, but you do it purely for Allah, and that action becomes heavy on your scale. So the question is not just what you are doing, the question is why you are doing it. Why do you act the way you do? Why do you avoid certain things in public, but allow them in private? Why do you feel more careful when people are watching, but more relaxed when you are alone? That difference is not small. That difference defines who you really are, because your real character is not built in front of people. It is built in moments of privacy, when you are alone with your thoughts, when you have the opportunity to do something wrong and no one would know, When you can choose between what is easy and what is right, those moments are the moments that shape your true self, and those are the moments that will stand with you in front of Allah. Now think about this seriously. If everything hidden in your life was made visible, if every private action was displayed, if every intention was revealed, would you feel comfortable standing in front of Allah with that reality? Most people don't want to answer that question honestly because they already know the answer. But avoiding the answer does not change the reality. This is why sincerity is so powerful, because sincerity removes the gap between your public life and your private life. It makes you the same person in both situations. You don't act for people. You don't adjust your values based on who is watching. You don't perform goodness for approval. You live with one standard, the awareness that Allah sees you at all times. And when that awareness becomes real to you, your behavior changes. You start caring less about how people see you and more about how Allah sees you. You start correcting things in private, not just in public. You start paying attention to your intentions, not just your actions. You become more honest with yourself, and that honesty is not comfortable. It forces you to face your weaknesses. It forces you to admit where you are falling short. It forces you to take responsibility instead of making excuses. But that discomfort is necessary because it prepares you for that meeting, the meeting where there is no hiding, no pretending, no escaping, only truth. So don't wait until that day to discover who you really are. Find out now. Look at your private life. Look at your habits. Look at your intentions. Look at what you do when no one is watching. That is your reality, and that is the person who will stand before Allah. So start correcting it now. Not for people, not for appearance, but for that moment when nothing will matter except the truth. Because on that day, you will stand alone, and only your reality will stand with you. 2. Regret will not be a word, it will be a reality. Right now, regret feels light. You regret wasting time, missing an opportunity, saying something you shouldn't have, but even when you feel it, you move on. You distract yourself. You tell yourself it's not a big deal, and after some time that feeling fades. That is not the kind of regret you will experience on that day. The regret of that day will not fade. It will not weaken. It will not be something you can ignore or escape. It will stay with you, heavy and constant, because you will finally see the full truth of what you did with your life. Right now, you only see part of your actions. You don't see their full consequences. You don't see how one small decision could have led to something greater. You don't see how one sin slowly pulled you further away. You don't see how one good deed could have saved you. But on that day, everything will be clear. You will see every moment you wasted, every opportunity you ignored, every time you knew what was right and chose something else. Not because you didn't know, but because you delayed. And that is where the real pain comes from. Because deep down, you already know what you should be doing. You know the prayer you are delaying. You know the habit you keep justifying. You know the distractions that are taking your time. You know the things pulling you away from Allah. You are not unaware. You are not confused. You are delaying, and delay is more dangerous than ignorance. Because when someone is ignorant, they don't see the truth clearly. But when you delay, you see it and still choose to wait. You tell yourself, I will fix it later. You say, I just need a little more time. You convince yourself that change will come at a better moment, a more convenient time, a time when you feel more ready. But that moment you are waiting for is not guaranteed. Time is not waiting for you to become ready. Every day that passes is taking you closer to that meeting, whether you prepare or not. And the problem is, you don't feel that loss immediately. You don't feel the weight of wasted time in the moment. You don't feel the impact of delaying one prayer, or ignoring one responsibility, or choosing one distraction over something meaningful. But those small delays, they build. They turn into patterns. Patterns turn into habits. And habits turn into a life that slowly moves away from what you know is right. Then one day, time runs out, and that is when regret begins. But by then, it is too late to act. That is what makes the regret of that day unbearable. It is not just regret over what you did wrong, it is regret over what you didn't do at all. The prayers you could have prayed with focus, but rushed or ignored. The moments you could have remembered Allah, but chose distraction instead. The chances you had to correct yourself, but postponed again and again. You will wish for one more chance, one more day to fix your intentions, one more opportunity to leave what you knew was wrong, one more moment to do something sincerely for Allah, but that door will be closed, and that is the reality you need to face now, not later. Because the truth is simple, if you don't change now, you are choosing that regret. If you continue to delay, you are building that regret. If you keep ignoring what you already know, you are preparing for that moment of realization. No one suddenly becomes ready at the end. People die the way they lived. If your life is built on delay, distraction, and excuses, then your ending will reflect that. And if your life is built on effort, sincerity, and awareness, then your ending will reflect that too. So stop waiting for a perfect moment. There is no perfect moment. There is only this moment. The moment where you are aware. The moment where you still have time. The moment where you can still act. You don't need to fix everything at once. You don't need to become perfect overnight. But you do need to stop delaying what you already know matters. Start with one thing, one prayer done properly, one habit you leave for the sake of Allah, one moment where you choose awareness over distraction, and then build from there. Because preparation is not about doing everything at once, it is about not ignoring what matters anymore. The people who succeed are not the ones who had more time, they are the ones who used the time they had. So don't lie to yourself by saying you will start later. Later is just another form of delay, and delay is what turns opportunity into regret. Remember this clearly. The regret of that day will not be a feeling you can escape. It will be a reality you will have to live with. So decide now, do you want to face that day with regret or with relief? Because the answer is not decided on that day. It is being decided right now by how you choose to live. 3. Your deeds are being recorded, not forgotten. You forget quickly. That is your nature. You move on from what you did yesterday as if it has no weight today. You say something, and within minutes you don't think about it again. You make a decision, and after some time it feels distant, almost irrelevant. You convince yourself that small things don't matter, that they pass, that they disappear. But understand this clearly, nothing disappears. Every action you take, every word you speak, every intention you hold inside, it is being recorded with precision you cannot imagine. Not a general record, not a rough summary, a detailed, exact, complete record. You may forget, but your record does not. You may ignore, but your record does not. You may minimize what you did, but your record does not. And this is something most people are not truly aware of in their daily lives. They believe in it in theory, but they don't live with it in reality. Because if you were truly aware that every moment is being written, your behavior would change. You would think before you speak. You would pause before you act. You would question your intentions before you move forward. But instead, you act freely in private, as if nothing is being tracked. You speak carelessly, as if your words have no lasting effect. You make decisions based on desire, not awareness, because you don't feel the weight of what is being recorded. The problem is not that the record is unclear. The problem is that you are disconnected from it. Right now, you live as if your actions end the moment they are done. You treat them like temporary moments that vanish. But in reality, every action you take is being preserved. And one day, that record will be opened. Not partially, not selectively, completely. Every hidden action will be there. Every private habit, every moment you thought no one would ever know. Every time you chose what was easy over what was right. Every intention behind your actions, even the ones you tried to hide. And not only the negative. Every good deed you did will be there too. Every moment you held yourself back for the sake of Allah. every time you chose patience over reaction, every time you made an effort, even when it was difficult, nothing is lost. That is what makes this reality both terrifying and hopeful at the same time. Terrifying for the one who lived carelessly, assuming nothing matters. Hopeful for the one who struggled sincerely even if no one saw their effort. Because on that day your record will not depend on how people saw you. It will depend on what you actually did. And this is where honesty becomes unavoidable. Right now, you can lie to yourself. You can justify your actions. You can downplay your mistakes. You can tell yourself, it's not that serious, or everyone does it, or I'll fix it later. But your record does not accept excuses. It reflects reality. If something is wrong, it is written as wrong. If something is sincere, it is written as sincere. If something is hidden, it is still written. There is no bias, no adjustment, no rewriting. So the real question is not what you think about yourself. The real question is what your record says about you. If your record was opened right now, without warning, without preparation, would you feel relief or fear? Most people don't want to answer that honestly, because deep down they already know there are things they have ignored, things they have delayed fixing, things they have allowed to continue even though they know they shouldn't. And the danger is, the more you ignore something, the more normal it becomes. A sin repeated becomes a habit. A habit ignored becomes part of your identity. And once something becomes part of your identity, it becomes much harder to change. But your record is still being written. Every repetition is being added. Every moment of awareness you ignored is being noted. Every chance you had to stop and didn't is part of that record. At the same time, every effort to change is also being recorded. This is important to understand. You are not judged only by your mistakes. You are judged by your response to those mistakes. When you recognize something is wrong and try to fix it, that effort matters. When you struggle to leave something behind, even if you fail at times, that struggle is not wasted. Allah sees the effort, not just the outcome. But that does not mean you can become comfortable with wrongdoing, because continuing something knowingly is different from struggling to leave it. One is awareness followed by effort. The other is awareness followed by neglect. And your record reflects that difference. So instead of thinking about your actions as temporary, start seeing them as permanent entries in your record. Every moment is an addition. Every choice is a line being written. And one day, you will have to face everything that has been written. You will not be able to deny it. You will not be able to hide it. You will not be able to remove it. You will only be able to face it. So change your perspective now. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this something I want written? Before you act, ask yourself, is this something I want to face later? Before you continue a habit, ask yourself, is this something I am willing to carry in my record? Because whether you think about it or not, it is being written, and that record will be presented to you in full, not to surprise you, but to show you the reality you chose to build. So build it carefully, because your record is not being forgotten. It is being prepared for the day you will stand alone in front of Allah. 4. This life is your only preparation time. You keep thinking you have time, not because someone promised it to you, but because it feels like you do. You wake up every day, you go through your routine, and everything seems normal. Nothing feels urgent. Nothing forces you to stop and realize that your time is actually limited. So you delay change, you delay repentance, you delay fixing what you already know is wrong. You tell yourself you will take things seriously later, when life is more stable, when you feel more ready, when the timing is better. But that thinking is built on an assumption that is completely false. You are assuming that your time is guaranteed, and it is not. This life you are living right now is not your permanent place. It is not your home. It is not where things settle. It is a temporary phase, a preparation stage, a place where you are being given the chance to build what will come next. And the most dangerous mistake you can make is treating something temporary as if it is permanent. When you treat this life as permanent, you become comfortable. You start focusing on things that only matter here. You invest your energy into things that will not follow you beyond this world. You prioritize comfort over preparation, distraction over awareness, short-term satisfaction over long-term reality, and slowly, without realizing it, you begin to neglect the only purpose of this life: preparation. Every single day you are alive is not random. It is an opportunity given to you, not earned, not guaranteed, given. You did not choose to wake up today. You were allowed to wake up, and with that permission came responsibility. The responsibility to use that time in a way that prepares you for what is coming. But instead, most people waste it. They fill their days with distractions. They chase things that have no value in the end. They delay what actually matters. They ignore the signs that should wake them up. And the reason they can do that is because they don't feel the urgency. Death feels distant. The meeting with Allah feels far away. The idea of accountability feels like something for the future. But the reality is different. You are not moving toward some distant moment. You are moving toward a moment that is getting closer with every second. Every day that passes is not just another day lived. It is one day less. One day less to prepare. One day less to correct your actions. One day less to fix your intentions. And the problem is, you don't know how many days you have left. You could have years, you could have months, you could have days. You don't know, and because you don't know, you should not be living as if you have unlimited time. This is where awareness changes everything. When you truly understand that your time is limited, your priorities shift. You stop wasting hours on things that don't matter. You stop delaying what you know is important. You become more careful with how you spend your time, because you realize that every moment is part of your preparation. But if you ignore this reality, you fall into a dangerous pattern. You start living on autopilot. You wake up, go through your routine, distract yourself, sleep and repeat. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and months turn into years. And during all that time, you convince yourself that you will change later. But later keeps moving. Later never arrives. And then suddenly, time runs out. And that is when realization hits that this life was not meant to be wasted, that those moments you ignored mattered, that those opportunities you delayed were your chance. But by then, preparation is over. This is why you need to break this pattern now. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because this moment you are in right now is part of your preparation. You don't need a new life to start preparing. You don't need a perfect situation. You don't need everything to be in order. You need awareness. Awareness that this moment matters, that what you choose to do right now is part of what you will face later. So start treating your time differently. Start valuing your days, not just spending them. Look at how you use your hours. Look at where your attention goes. Look at what you prioritize. Be honest. How much of your time is actually preparing you for your meeting with Allah? And how much of it is just passing without purpose? This is not about removing everything from your life. It is about giving things their proper place. You can live, work, rest, enjoy, but not at the cost of your preparation, not at the cost of your purpose. Because once this life ends, everything stops. There is no extension, no extra time, no chance to go back and fix what you ignored. The door closes, and what you prepared is what you carry forward. So don't wait for a wake-up call. Don't wait for a loss, a fear, or a shock to force you into awareness. Choose awareness now. Choose to live with the understanding that your time is limited and your purpose is clear. Prepare while you still can, because this life is not where you settle. It is where you prepare for the meeting that will decide everything. 5. Sincerity is what will save you, not perfection. You have convinced yourself of something that is quietly destroying your progress. You think you need to become perfect before you turn back to Allah. You think you need to fix everything first, clean up your life completely, remove every sin, and only then start taking your relationship with Allah seriously. That thinking sounds logical. It feels right. But it is completely wrong, because if perfection was a requirement, no one would be saved. You are not created to be perfect. You are created to struggle, to fall, to recognize your mistakes, and then to return. That process is not a weakness. That process is your path. But what you are doing instead is delaying that path. You are saying, I will start when I am better. I will become consistent when I fix this habit. I will take things seriously when I feel ready. And that is the trap, because you are waiting for a version of yourself that does not exist yet, and will never exist unless you start now. You don't become sincere after you fix your life. You fix your life by becoming sincere. That is the difference. Sincerity is not about having no flaws. It is about being honest with Allah despite your flaws. It is about turning back even when you feel ashamed. It is about continuing to try even when you fail again. Look at your current state honestly. You already know where you are falling short. You know the habits that pull you down. You know the areas where you are inconsistent. The problem is not that you are unaware. The problem is that you think those flaws disqualify you from starting. But in reality, those flaws are the reason you need to start. Because sincerity begins exactly where you are, not where you wish you were. When you stand in prayer while knowing you are not perfect, but you still stand, that is sincerity. When you leave a sin, even temporarily, because you know it is wrong, that is sincerity. When you make an effort to correct your intention, even if your actions are still weak, that is sincerity. And Allah values that more than you realize, because Allah does not look at you the way people look at you. People judge your outcome. They judge your consistency. They judge your visible behavior. Allah looks deeper. He looks at your intention. He looks at your effort. He looks at your willingness to return even after you fall. And this is where most people lose, not because they are worse than others, but because they give up too early. They try once, fail, and then they say, what's the point? They fall back into a habit and say, I'm not serious anyway. They miss consistency and say, I'll start again later, and later becomes another delay. Understand this clearly. Failing does not make you insincere. Giving up does. Repeating a mistake does not remove your chance. Choosing not to try again does. The one who keeps returning, even if they fall 100 times, is still moving forward. Slowly, imperfectly, but forward. But the one who waits for perfection never starts, and that is the real loss. Because sincerity is not a one-time decision. It is a continuous state. It is waking up and choosing again, choosing to try again, choosing to correct yourself again, choosing to turn back again, even when it feels repetitive, even when it feels small, even when no one sees it. That is what builds your record, not perfect actions done once, but sincere efforts done consistently. You need to change how you see yourself. Stop seeing yourself as someone who needs to become perfect. Start seeing yourself as someone who needs to become honest. Honest about your weaknesses, honest about your intentions, honest about your need for Allah. Because once you are honest, change becomes possible. Without honesty, you stay stuck in denial or delay, and honesty is uncomfortable. It forces you to admit that you are not where you should be. It forces you to face habits you have normalized. It forces you to stop making excuses. But that discomfort is necessary because it breaks the illusion that you are fine. And once that illusion is gone, you can start building something real. Another important thing you need to understand is this: small, sincere actions are not small. You underestimate them because they look simple. One focused prayer, one moment of remembrance, one decision to avoid something wrong, one effort to correct your intention. You think these are minor, but when they are done with sincerity, they carry weight. And when they are repeated, they build strength. Over time, those small actions begin to shape your character. They begin to replace your old habits. They begin to align your public and private life. That is how real change happens, not through sudden perfection, but through consistent sincerity. So stop waiting. Stop thinking you need to fix everything before you begin. Begin now with what you have. Pray, even if your focus is not perfect. Avoid what you can, even if you can't avoid everything. Correct your intention, even if it slips again. And most importantly, keep returning. Because Allah does not reject the one who keeps coming back. No matter how many times they fall, what matters is not how clean your past is. What matters is how sincere your return is. And that sincerity is what will stand with you on the day you meet Allah. Not your image, not your excuses, not your delays, your sincerity. So build it now, while you still have the chance. 6. Distraction is the biggest trap keeping you unprepared. You don't fail to prepare because you don't care. You fail because you are constantly distracted. That is the truth most people avoid. You are not completely unaware. You are not completely disconnected. There are moments when you feel it. Moments when something inside you reminds you of Allah, reminds you of your purpose, reminds you that you need to change. But those moments don't last. Why? Because you immediately return to distraction. You pick up your phone, you scroll, you watch, you listen, you talk, you fill your mind with noise, and slowly that awareness fades again. This is not accidental. Distraction is not just something that happens. It is something you allow, and then it controls you. Look at your day honestly. From the moment you wake up, where does your attention go? How quickly do you reach for your phone? How many hours disappear without you even noticing? How often do you tell yourself, just a few minutes, and then it turns into something much longer? You are not losing time in big, obvious ways. You are losing it in small, repeated moments of distraction. And that is what makes it dangerous. Because you don't feel it. You don't feel the loss of 1 hour. You don't feel the impact of one distraction. You don't feel the damage of one moment where you chose comfort over awareness. But those moments, they build. They stack on top of each other until they form your entire day. Then your days form your weeks form your months. And before you realize it, a large part of your life has passed in distraction. And during all that time, your preparation was neglected. This is why distraction is not harmless. It creates a false sense of comfort. You feel busy, but you are not progressing. You feel occupied, but you are not preparing. You feel entertained, but you are not improving. And the worst part is, you become used to it. Distraction becomes your normal state. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Stillness becomes difficult. Reflection becomes something you avoid. Because when you are not distracted, you start thinking. You start realizing where you are. You start noticing what you are ignoring. You start feeling the gap between how you are living and how you should be living. And instead of facing that, you return to distraction, because distraction is easier than honesty. It allows you to escape without fixing anything. But understand this clearly, every moment of distraction is not neutral. It is a moment taken away from your preparation. It is a moment where you could have remembered Allah, but didn't. A moment where you could have reflected, but avoided it. A moment where you could have done something meaningful, but chose something temporary. And the problem is, you don't see the loss immediately. You don't feel the weight of it in the moment. But one day, you will. One day you will look back and see how much time was spent on things that didn't matter. You will realize how many opportunities were there and how many of them were ignored because you were distracted. And that realization will not feel light, because you will understand that it didn't have to be that way. You were not forced to waste your time. You chose to. That is why you need to take control of your attention, because your attention is your life. Where your attention goes, your time goes. Where your time goes, your life goes. And where your life goes determines what you will face when you meet Allah. So if your attention is constantly scattered, your preparation will always be weak. You need to start becoming aware of what is taking your focus, not in a general way, but in a detailed, honest way. Notice how often you check your phone. Notice how quickly you get bored with silence. Notice how uncomfortable it feels to sit without distraction. These are signs that your mind has become dependent on constant stimulation, and that dependency is keeping you away from what actually matters. Because preparation requires focus. It requires moments of stillness, moments of reflection, moments where you step back and think about your actions, your intentions, your direction. But distraction removes all of that. It keeps you moving, but not moving forward. So you need to break this pattern, not by removing everything at once, but by becoming intentional. Start with small changes. Create moments in your day where you are not distracted. Even if it is just a few minutes. Sit without your phone. Let your mind settle. Think about your life. Think about your actions. It will feel uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is a sign that you are breaking the habit. Then start protecting your time. Not every notification deserves your attention. Not every piece of content deserves your focus. Not everything that is available to you is beneficial for you. You need to become selective, because if you don't control what enters your mind will be controlled by whatever reaches it first. And most of what reaches you is designed to keep you distracted. So take back control. Reduce what you consume. Limit what you allow into your day. Create space for awareness, because without that space, you will continue living on autopilot, and autopilot leads to regret. You were not created to be constantly distracted. You were created to be aware of Allah, aware of your purpose, aware of your actions. And that awareness is what leads to preparation. So don't underestimate distraction. It is not just wasting your time, it is quietly taking you away from what matters most. And if you don't stop it now, it will leave you unprepared for the meeting that cannot be delayed. So wake up, not later, now, before distraction turns into regret. 7. Preparation is simple, but it requires honesty. You keep thinking preparation is complicated. You think it requires a complete transformation, a perfect routine, a level of discipline you don't currently have. You look at your life and you feel overwhelmed. You see too many flaws, too many inconsistencies, too many things that need fixing, and instead of starting, you freeze. That is your mistake. Preparation is not complicated. It is simple, but simple does not mean easy, because what it actually requires is honesty. And honesty is something most people avoid. You don't struggle because you don't know what to do. You struggle because you don't want to fully admit what you need to change. You already know where you are falling short. You know the prayers you are neglecting. You know the habits that are pulling you down. You know the distractions that are wasting your time. You know the areas where your intentions are not clean. You are not lost. You are avoiding. You keep things vague on purpose. You tell yourself, I need to improve, but you don't define how. You say, I'll become better. But you don't decide what that actually means, because the moment you become specific, you are forced to act. And action is uncomfortable. It requires discipline. It requires sacrifice. It requires you to go against what feels easy. So instead, you stay in a state of general awareness without real change. You think about improving, but you don't move. That is not preparation. Preparation begins the moment you become specific and honest, not with what sounds good, but with what is real. Ask yourself directly, what exactly is wrong in my life right now? Not in a general way, in a clear, uncomfortable, undeniable way. Which prayers are you delaying or rushing? Which sins have you normalized? Which habits are you protecting even though you know they are wrong? Where are your intentions mixed with showing off, seeking approval, or protecting your image? This is where preparation begins, because until you are honest, you will keep pretending that things are not that bad, and that mindset keeps you stuck. Once you are honest, the path becomes simple, not easy, but simple. You don't need to fix everything at once. You need to start with what is clear. Start with your prayers, not just performing them, but taking them seriously, giving them time, giving them attention, making them a priority, instead of something you fit into your day when it's convenient. Because your prayer is not just an action, it is your connection with Allah. If that connection is weak, everything else will be weak. Then look at what you know is wrong and make a decision, not a vague intention, a decision. There are things in your life right now that you already know you need to leave, not gradually, not later, but clearly. The longer you keep something in your life, while knowing it is wrong, the more it becomes part of you, and the harder it becomes to remove. So stop negotiating with what you already know is wrong. Make a clear decision to step away from it. It will be uncomfortable. You will feel resistance. You will feel the pull to go back. That is normal, because you are breaking a pattern, but that discomfort is part of your preparation. Then focus on your intentions. This is where honesty becomes deeper. You can do the right action for the wrong reason. You can pray to be seen. You can give to be praised. You can act in a certain way to protect your image. And if your intention is not corrected, your actions lose their value. So start questioning yourself. Why am I doing this? Am I doing this for Allah or for how people see me? This is not something you fix once. It is something you keep checking, because sincerity requires constant awareness, and without honesty, that awareness disappears. Another thing you need to understand is this: preparation is not about sudden change. It is about consistent direction. You don't need to become a completely different person overnight. You need to start moving in the right direction and keep moving. Even if your steps are small, even if your progress feels slow, even if you struggle along the way. Because consistency builds something powerful. It turns effort into habit. It turns awareness into stability. It turns intention into reality. But inconsistency keeps you stuck, starting and stopping, trying and quitting, deciding and delaying. That cycle destroys your preparation. So break that cycle. Decide and then stay with your decision, not perfectly, but consistently. And when you fall, because you will, return quickly. Don't let one mistake turn into a full return to your old habits. Recognize it, correct it, move forward again. This is what honest preparation looks like. It is not clean, it is not perfect, it is not easy, but it is real, and that is what matters. Because on the day you stand before Allah, you will not be judged based on an image you tried to maintain. You will be judged based on the reality you built. A reality shaped by your decisions, your efforts, your intentions, and your honesty. So stop overcomplicating this. Stop waiting for a perfect version of yourself. Stop hiding behind general intentions. Be specific. Be honest. Start now. Because preparation is not about knowing what to do. You already know. Preparation is about facing the truth and acting on it. And the sooner you do that, the more ready you will be for the meeting that cannot be avoided. 8. You will not be wronged, so stop wronging yourself. There is something you need to understand clearly, without any confusion and without any emotional escape. On the day you stand before Allah, you will not be treated unfairly. Nothing will be taken away from you. Nothing will be added against you. There will be no dhulum, no injustice, no miscalculation. Everything will be exact, precise, and perfectly just. And that should not only comfort you, it should also scare you. Because if you are not going to be wronged on that day, then the only person who could have wronged you is you. Right now, it is easy to shift blame. You can say your environment made things difficult. You can say people influenced you. You can say your circumstances were not ideal. You can point at your past, your struggles, your weaknesses, your distractions, and use them as explanations for why you are not where you should be. And to some extent, those things are real. They affect you, they shape your situation, but they do not remove your responsibility. Because even within those situations, you still made choices. You chose what to prioritize. You chose what to ignore. You chose when to act and when to delay. You chose what to continue even when you knew it was wrong. You chose distraction over awareness. You chose comfort over discipline. You chose silence when you should have corrected yourself. You chose to postpone what you already knew mattered. And every one of those choices is part of your record. This is where you need to stop lying to yourself. You are not stuck because you cannot change. You are stuck because you have not fully decided to change. There is a difference. When someone truly decides, their behavior shifts. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not instantly, but clearly. Their priorities change. Their time is used differently, their attention becomes more focused, their excuses start disappearing. But when someone is still negotiating with themselves, still keeping options open, still protecting certain habits, they stay in the same place. And then they say, it's hard. Of course it's hard. But difficulty is not the problem. Avoidance is. You are not being asked to do something impossible. You are being asked to stop making choices that harm you. Think about that carefully. Every sin you continue, every obligation you ignore, every moment you waste in distraction, every time you delay what you know is right, you are not hurting Allah. You are hurting yourself. You are building a record that you will have to face. You are creating regret that you will have to carry. You are choosing a path that leads to difficulty later, just to avoid discomfort now. And that is the definition of wronging yourself, because on that day you will not be able to say, I didn't know. You will not be able to say, I was forced. You will not be able to say, it just happened. You will see clearly. You will see where you had a choice and what you chose. You will see where you had time and how you used it. You will see where you had opportunities and how many you ignored. And the hardest part will not be the judgment itself. It will be the realization that you did this to yourself, that you had chances to change and delayed, that you had awareness and ignored it, that you had time and wasted it. That realization is what creates the deepest regret, because it removes every excuse. So if you want to avoid that regret, you need to change your mindset now. Stop thinking of your actions as small or temporary. Start seeing them as decisions that are shaping your outcome. Every time you choose to pray on time, you are building your future. Every time you hold yourself back from something wrong, you are protecting yourself. Every time you fight your desire for the sake of Allah, you are strengthening your position. And every time you ignore these things, you are doing the opposite. You are weakening yourself. You are increasing your burden. You are moving closer to a reality you will not want to face. So stop thinking that your actions don't matter. They matter more than you realize. And stop thinking that you can keep living like this and fix everything later. Later is not promised. Even if it comes, your habits will be stronger. Your mindset will be more fixed. And change will be harder. The easiest time to correct yourself is now. Not because now is comfortable, but because now is available. You have awareness right now. You have the ability to act right now. You have the chance to make a different decision right now. So use it, because if you don't, you are choosing your future, not by accident, but by your own decisions. And when you stand before Allah and everything is shown to you with complete justice, you will realize something that cannot be changed anymore. You were not wronged. You wronged yourself. So stop doing that. Stop making choices that you know will harm you. Stop delaying what you know will benefit you. Stop protecting habits that are destroying your preparation. And start acting like someone who understands what is coming. Because the meeting is real. The judgment is real. And the outcome will be based on what you chose to do, not what you wished you had done. So choose carefully, because no one will carry your burden for you, and no one will be blamed for your decisions except you. And once that truth settles in your heart, everything changes, because now you can no longer hide behind comfort. You can no longer delay with a clear conscience. You can no longer pretend that things will somehow fix themselves without your effort. You realize that every single day you wake up is not just another day. It is a chance either used or wasted. It is either bringing you closer to safety or closer to regret. So the real question becomes very direct. What are you doing with your chances? Not in a general way, not in a vague way, in a very specific, honest way. When you wake up, what is your first priority? Is it awareness of Allah, or is it immediate distraction? When you have free time, do you use it to build something meaningful, or do you let it disappear into things you will not even remember tomorrow? When you know something is wrong in your life, do you confront it, or do you quietly continue it and hope it will somehow resolve on its own? These are not small questions. These are the questions that define your outcome, because your life is not shaped by what you say you want. It is shaped by what you repeatedly choose. And right now, you are building a pattern, either a pattern of awareness, effort, and correction, or a pattern of delay, distraction, and avoidance. There is no neutral state. Even doing nothing is a choice. Even delaying is a decision. Even ignoring is a form of action. And every one of these choices is taking you in a direction. So stop thinking that you are standing still. You are moving. The only question is, where are you going? If your days are filled with distraction, then your direction is clear. If your habits are built on delay, then your outcome is predictable. If your intentions are mixed and unchecked, then your record is being shaped in a way that will not benefit you. And deep down, you already know this. That is why certain moments hit you. Moments of silence, moments of reflection, moments when something inside you feels uneasy. That feeling is not random. It is your awareness trying to break through the noise. It is a reminder that you are not living the way you should be, a reminder that you are capable of more, a reminder that time is passing. But instead of listening to that reminder, you push it away. You distract yourself again. You delay again. You return to the same patterns again. And that is how people slowly move toward regret, without realizing it, not through one big mistake, but through repeated small decisions to ignore what they already know. So if you want to break this cycle, you need to do something most people avoid. You need to stop running from yourself. Sit with your reality. Look at your life without excuses. Look at your actions, your habits, your priorities, your intentions, not to judge yourself in a way that leads to hopelessness, but to understand yourself in a way that leads to change. Because once you see clearly, you cannot pretend anymore. And that clarity is powerful. It forces you to make a decision, either continue as you are, knowing where it leads, or change even if it is uncomfortable. And this is where real preparation begins, not when everything is fixed, but when you stop lying to yourself, when you stop minimizing your mistakes, when you stop delaying what you already know matters, and you start acting, even in small ways, because small, honest actions break large patterns. One prayer done on time breaks the habit of delay. One moment of restraint breaks the habit of giving in. One honest reflection breaks the habit of avoidance. And when those small actions are repeated, they begin to reshape your life, slowly but surely. So don't underestimate what you can do right now. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a clear decision. A decision that you will no longer accept a life of distraction and delay. A decision that you will no longer keep harming yourself while knowing better. A decision that you will take responsibility fully, because no one else will do it for you, and no one else will answer for you. On that day, you will stand alone, not with your excuses, not with your explanations, but with your choices, and everything you did will make sense to you in a way it never did before. So make sure that when that moment comes, you are not forced to say, "I knew, but I still didn't act." Make sure you can say, "I struggled, but I tried," because that difference is everything, and it starts now, not later. Now, O Allah, we stand before you now in weakness, knowing that one day we will stand before you in truth. Do not let us be among those who realize too late. Do not let us be among those who knew but still delayed. O Allah, make us honest with ourselves before we are exposed before you. Purify our intentions, correct our hearts, and remove from us the need to be seen by people. Make us sincere in what we do, in what we say, and in what we hide. O Allah, do not let our private lives be worse than our public lives. Make us better in secret than we are in front of others. Protect us from hypocrisy in all its forms, the kind we see and the kind we don't even recognize. O Allah, forgive us for every prayer we delayed, every moment we wasted, every sin we continued while knowing it was wrong. Forgive us for the times we chose distraction over remembrance, comfort over obedience, and delay over action. O Allah, do not let our regrets reach a point where they cannot be fixed. Give us the strength to change now, not later. Give us the courage to leave what is wrong, even when it is difficult, and make the path of obedience easy for our hearts. O Allah, place awareness in our hearts, so that we remember you in private and in public. Let every moment of our life bring us closer to you, not further away. Protect our time from being wasted and our hearts from becoming hard. O Allah, make our record a source of peace for us, not a source of fear. Fill it with sincerity, with effort, with repentance, and with actions that are accepted by you. O Allah, when we stand before you, do not humiliate us. Do not expose us in front of creation. Cover our faults, forgive our shortcomings, and enter us into your mercy. O Allah, grant us a good ending. Let our last moments be in remembrance of you, in sincerity to you, and in hope of meeting you with a clean heart. O Allah, make us among those who prepared before regret began. Ameen.